Welcome back to the Other Side Lifestyle Podcast with Jim and Aram. Today, we have a query for you. We have Garrett Query, GQ. Maybe he'll tell us how he got the nickname outside of just his initials. The fancy dressing, master of fat loss, Phoenix, Arizona residing, online fitness coach. Garrett, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Good. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
The time of the year where you're not sweating your little nuts off yet.
Not yet. We hit 90 degrees yesterday, so it's coming. It's getting there.
It's not the heat; it's the humidity.
Then all you fuckers invade San Diego, and we call you Zonies.
Zonies? Why Zonies?
Yeah, because they're from Arizona. Because all the people from Arizona escape the heat. They escape the heat of the summertime by coming to San Diego, where we graciously overpay for the weather here. And
now, Aram,
don't get any. Yeah,
being an East Coaster, an OG East Coaster, did you call day trippers to the beach shoobies, or is that just a Jersey thing?
That's a Jersey thing.
Fuck
and
you.
I also I had a share of a house in Jersey, so I was kind of almost indoctrinated into the Jersey culture as well.
Yeah, the shore and the shoobies. And now somebody told me, I don't know if you heard a different reason. Shoobies were like the people they threw. Yeah, that's the Jersey. They like threw their stuff in a shoe box. They're there for the day. Otherwise, I didn't understand what the shoebie thing was. That's what somebody told me one time. I don't believe it.
Bridge and Tunnel crowd, which is the people that would come into New York City for the day. Yeah. They were called the Bridge and Tunnel crowd. But it's always funny to me how like these names get brought up and how people find like these identities of like where they're from. And I think there's no better identity story I think that I know of outside of GQ's story. I want him to start all the way at the beginning. Fast
in the third grade, I pushed my sister down the stairs and I blamed it on the dog.
I was going to basically say, let's ignore the part from when your parents fucked. We don't really care about that. We know that they probably did. And
yeah,
it was probably somewhat enjoyable for at least one of the parties. And then
debatable.
9 months later, you were here. But let's start with the beginning, like where. Obviously,
I was conceived in a Concordia Christian College dorm room. If that tells you anything.
Wow, that says. I mean, that says everything we need to know. So,
how many demerits did they get?
I had a very open home growing up, so yes, I know my conception story.
Jesus, so your parents were going up against Jesus from early on.
Yeah.
Were they married yet or no?
No.
Ooh, wow. So out of wedlock.
Yeah.
You. Wow. We're just shitting all over religion today.
18 years old. Yeah. 18 years old.
That's fantastic. Yeah. That's how you stick it to the good book.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in a very, for the most part, stereotypical Midwest home. Other than the fact that my parents were very young. My mom was 18. My dad was 18, turning 19 3 months later. And then from there, I just both my parents just learned pretty traditional coping mechanisms of eating your feelings. Like you're happy, you're sad, you're angry, you're anxious, you're depressed, you eat. There is never a reason not to eat. And I mean, family gathering, eat. Like even to this day, God bless my sister. I love her. She's the hostess with the mostest. Like, she cooks enough food at holiday times to feed an army. My sister prepares enough food that like I could easily invite 10 additional people to any gathering and everyone will be fed well.
It's all about the leftovers. Over at the queries, it's all about the leftovers.
All about the leftovers.
So what kind of so when you were talking about some of that stress coping mechanism stuff and the kind of ritual eating, what types of stuff was on the table back then? Not during holiday time, just like average Tuesday night at the GQ residence.
So for the most part, I grew up in a very like meat and potatoes family. Like that like traditional dinner, like growing up throughout the week would have been, there was like, there was a spaghetti night. There was probably a taco night, steak and potatoes, pork chop and potatoes, chicken wings, and rice and whatever vegetable. Hot dish, lots of hot dish. Like, it's the Midwest, lot of hot dish. Like, my mom.
Hot dish.
Hot.
What kind of weird lingo are you throwing out at us? Like we're from the middle of nowhere. You just listed 5 hot dishes, and then you said you have hot dishes. We are very confused. We are from near the water. We don't know what hot dishes are. Is that a slow cooker?
I think you call it casserole.
Ah, okay, yeah, that would make more sense.
So something with like cheese and shit on it.
Yeah, so
or just a bunch of shit, like a non-liquid beef stew.
Yeah, like so my mom found this one recipe for spaghetti pizza. So it was literally like, you would cook spaghetti, right? You would make this like egg something that would go at the bottom to like basically pull the pasta together and like give it a crust, and then you top it with pizza toppings and cheese, like 2 pounds of cheese.
Here's one for you. Let me see if any of your families had this, Mother. We had tuna casserole, which was a box of macaroni and it's actually slamming. I would eat the whole thing right now. Oh. It sounds disgusting. Box of macaroni and cheese, a can of 2 or whatever. She put in a tuna fish, and then cream of mushroom soup, just all mixed up. Just a sloppy mess.
Never had it.
It's actually good. If somebody told me about that, I'd be like, that's disgusting. I'm never going to taste that. But
I mean, I've eaten
all
every
3 of
those things separately. I've eaten.
Put it together.
Yeah.
You might jizz a little bit.
Well, the cream of mushroom takes care of that problem.
We had
it's insta jizz for you.
Tater tot hot dish. So that's a Midwest.
Oh man.
Okay. So it's what is it? Beef. And depending on whose family's making it, like corn, peas, and then a bunch of cream of mushroom, cream of chicken, and you top it with tater tots and 2 pounds of cheese.
So we weren't tracking macros back in the GQ days. So did you feel as though, I mean, obviously, let's talk a little bit about kind of like where weight was and stuff as a kid and what happened since then. What was the highest weight you ever hit as a kid?
So putting this into perspective, I walked into high school football tryouts at the ripe age of 14 at 314 pounds.
4'11".
How tall were you?
How tall is a freshman, you think?
5'8".
Doesn't even matter though with that kind of
When you left high school.
300. So I graduated a semester early from high school at like 360 pounds. Lost 70 pounds naturally, walked at 290, kept it together for the most part. I think I only regained like 20 pounds, got back up to like 310. My car broke down in July. I was accepted to the University of Nebraska, was supposed to live with my step grandparents, and my step grandpa called me and said, "Hey, your grandma's knees messed up. Your room is downstairs. The laundry room's downstairs. She doesn't know how to not help. So we can't have you. You need to, make up an excuse and go live at the dorms." So my tuition went from $13,000 to $26,000 overnight, and my car broke down. I took that as a sign of like, apparently I'm not supposed to be there right now. I'm going to take a year off. And 6 months later, my mom died. My mom passed away at 36 years old. She would have been 37 6 days later.
Jesus, what happened with your mom, if you don't mind asking?
So she had gastric bypass in the 90s. She was already anemic, so not a good combination. And for some reason, what we ended up finding out long-term was, so when I was 14 and I had left for, I was a part of a tripping camp at the time. My dad worked, my parents were divorced. My dad worked for this big, it was actually originally a Jewish summer camp. Very wealthy families that would basically send their kids from boarding school to summer camp. So they'd see their kids a total of 8 weeks a year. And send off their kids to this summer camp, and it was a big tripping summer camp. And so I spent 8 weeks in Washington State, and that was the first summer that she got sick. The first summer that she got sick. And during those 8 weeks, what's so crazy is I experienced 3 panic attacks. I've never had panic attacks before, and I've never had panic attacks after. I kept a journal that whole summer, and every date that I had panic attacks correlated to the days that the doctor said she would not make it through the night.
In Washington State, she's down.
Not even knowing that.
She's where?
No. So I was like 13, 14 years old. No one told me. No one told me the whole summer. So you know, it's funny. Like when I tell people like I was a mama's boy, whatever God, universe, or otherwise that you believe in, whatever you want to call that soul connection, before cell phones, I'm in the middle of nowhere on a mountain, and I knew something was wrong. Her body stopped producing the chemical, the hormone that makes you want to eat.
Ghrelin, I guess.
I don't know. As much as that impacted my life, it's funny as I've actually never really deep dove into that. So things kept getting progressively worse, and she got to the point where she needed blood transfusions. And so she needed them for almost 9 months, and everything was fine. So she was getting the hormone from the blood transfusions. When then she came off of them the following summer, we basically experienced the same thing. She almost died. They couldn't figure out what was going on. It was the chemical that makes you want to eat. And what's crazy is it had gotten so bad. My confirmation from church the following spring, there's pictures of me and my mom, and she literally looks like she walked out of Auschwitz. Like her body was in such a bad place that they said that she catabolized 70% of her leg tissue in her left leg.
Jeez. And this was after she struggled with weight and to the point where she had to have a gastric bypass surgery.
Yeah.
So shitty way to say it, folks, but calorie deficits work.
They do. Because I remember when she was going through this, when it was like, when we didn't know what was happening, everything to her tasted spicy. So she'd like have a couple bites of a meal, and then she would just kind of like be like, like I'm good, like just not finish a meal, I'm full. And so, yeah. And then they finally figured it out. And from there, she was never really quite the same. Because I mean, if you can imagine, if your body's been pushed to the brink of eating 70% of your leg tissue. And so she was like in and out of hospitals. The last 18 months of her life were like the best and the most like what I recall my mom being there. And then she got, I had like moved out. She had gotten sick. We had actually had like this family meeting. My stepdad wasn't really that great of a person. And we were like, hey, we need to have like an intervention, and we need to tell her, hey, it's going to be okay. You need to divorce him the day before she passed. And then because she was on permanent disability for 4 years, plaque had built up around her heart, a piece of the stress that had like, she wound up in the hospital again, the stress on her body, her kidneys were having some issues, and the stress on her body caused a piece of plaque to break loose, and she stroked out at 36.
Well, I mean, and at that point, if there was going to be any time that health started to matter, I would imagine that's when things probably kicked on.
Yeah, I think it was the following week I had a life insurance policy at the ripe age of 18 years old.
What do you think as far as behavior for you? I mean, at that point you were a heavy kid. Did you start remedying any of your own behavior, watching this go down, watching this unfold, or did this push you further into a place of dysfunction?
Originally, yeah, because like I said, I graduated. So I graduated to the day 1 year before she died. I graduated 1 year to the day before she passed away. And that was when I lost 70 pounds naturally coming out of high school, and kind of got my life together, hired a trainer, was working out. So yeah, the best coaches have coaches, and I've had a coach since I was 18.
Ever since?
Pretty much, on and off. Like there's been periods, of course, but yes, I've had a coach since I was 18. I've invested in coaching since I was 18.
Now, since that, and obviously watching all this stuff growing up as a kid, when you have conversations with your clients who have issues with food or have stress eating issues or coping mechanism problems, are you drawing upon your own experiences to discuss some of these things and be able to get people to understand the severity of that type of an issue?
Yes, and sometimes no, because like my identity shift has been so big. Sometimes, like, now, especially as I've gotten further and further into my professional career and my results speak for themselves, it almost doesn't come up as often, and I kind of forget about that because it's been 15 years. As I really sit back and look at it, like, I've been at this for 15 years, and I look back at the last 15 years and I've kind of calculated, like, I would estimate in 15 years, I've probably missed 6 months of training in 15 years. Like, wow. I don't miss.
I've missed that in the last 18 months. So I win.
But it's interesting to hear that, because a lot of people still live in the past, right? A lot of people have a tough time accepting and moving on and being able to walk into this new identity. Whereas for you, you're like, I'm unrecognizable. I don't even fucking remember fat GQ. I don't remember food relationship problems. I don't remember my parents struggling with weight, because I moved into this place to where now I am this new person.
So some big revelations this year, because this year has been very transformative. So number one, I will say this. I have still dealt with a poor relationship with food, but to it, we always, as coaches, you're like, oh, you can't out train a bad diet. Watch me. I've come pretty close to out training a bad diet. Like, I would say the only thing that is, like, because January of this year, I was 252 pounds. As I showed up for a Real Coaches Summit in the conference, I was 228 pounds, like, and lean. And
I mean, that's 100 pounds from your high, right?
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Absolutely. Did you say me? Were you talking to me? Right?
No,
Did I miss something?
No.
I thought you said that's 100 pounds more than my high.
No,
saying that I only weighed 120 pounds or something. And I was like, yeah.
From getting
so anyway,
the heaviest to showing up to the Real Coaches Summit at 228. That's 100 pound loss from your high.
100 pound. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sitting here responding as if you were talking to me. I apologize. Go ahead.
So my highest ever weight was, the highest I ever saw on a scale was 396 pounds.
396?
396.
Holy shit. Okay.
Like, I was big.
Yeah.
Now, was that like muscle as well? Or were you training? That was just pure.
There's only so much muscle. Yeah.
So when my mom passed away, I still remember this. When my mom passed away and I reverted to old habits, old identity, I would get 2 McGriddles, 2 hash browns, a large OJ on the way to work. By my 10 a.m. break, I would have probably a bag of Skittles, candy bar, and maybe a bag of chips and a Coke. Lunch break, I had 30 minutes, 30. I would drive across the street and regularly pick up a Little Caesars pizza, 5 Crazy Breads, and a 2 liter of Coke, and I would smash the entire thing and half that 2 liter of Coke. I was dating at the time. My girlfriend was also heavy set. I was with for a couple of years. I'd come home and cook 2 pounds of pasta, 2 pounds of meat, have some meat sauce. Like, that was a regular dinner during the week for sure.
Just so people have an idea of what his breakfast was back then. 2 McGriddles, 2 hash browns, 2 large OJs.
Yeah.
160 calories, 50 grams of protein, 252 grams of carbs, and 84 grams of fat. That was meal 1.
Woohoo!
And the third meal was the pizza and the breadsticks.
Yeah.
But it's this This is what I think a lot of people.
You're talking 8,000, 8 plus 8 to 10,000 calories a day potentially.
I mean, he's eclipsing 250 to 300 grams of fat a day.
Yeah,
easy.
I had no concept. No.
Wow, and you're still with us today, thankfully.
Yeah. At the ripe age of 19, I did have sclerosis of the liver. So I already had hardening of the liver due to being so obese.
Now, did you feel like you almost overcompensated for that grief? Like when you were dealing with that issue, did you feel like you just dove into your
100.
relationship, into food, and that it almost became like gluttonous at times because you were overdoing it?
Yeah, 100%.
You still feel out of control with food to this day at some moments of your life?
Brief moments.
And what will bring that on? Because I think it's important for our listeners to understand that, like, even when you've gone down the road of relatively high levels of recovery, there's still going to be that instance of relapse or going back to your old habits. And I want people to understand that doesn't mean you're broken or you're fucked up or you didn't make any progress. What types of things in your life will bring that upon you?
So here's a fun one for you. So I went and saw my accountants yesterday. They're both in their 60s, and I see them maybe twice a year. Both of them, within a matter of 10 minutes of arriving at their office, they're like, Garrett, you look happier, you look healthier, your energy is lighter, you're just better. And I was like, that's good. I was in a very toxic relationship, and I was equally parts responsible for the toxicity of the relationship. Like, this is not blaming that person. I was engaged to be married, and I ended that engagement in September. And I'll say this is the amount of pain and grief that I felt for the last 4 to 5 months of 2023, comes very comparably close to what I experienced when I lost my mom. Like the thought of not marrying the person that I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with and truly letting go of that. The habit. So rewind to October of 2022. I knew that I just needed to be mentally sharper and made the decision to do 75 hard for the mental piece, not the dieting piece, because for reference, I have dieted down for a photo shoot in 2018 for 6 months without 75 hard before it ever even existed. So I know how to fat loss. At that time, I dieted down for a photo shoot. I dropped 47 pounds. I came in at 202 pounds and shredded for my body frame and at the time. Wow. But I knew then, I think it was trying to like cope for the toxicity in my relationship. I was trying to control something. I did 75 hard from October to December 17th of 2022, got down to 222 pounds. And by like May or June, the culmination of everything that was going on in my personal life and business and everything else was, I started to just rely on that old identity, cope the same way. I was buying props at the time for content, right? Like some Oreos and some chips and some candy to film content. And I was keeping them around the house to film content. And I just couldn't stop myself from continuing to just go scavenge those things and eating them and having them around. And so that kind of started in May, June of 2023. And slowly but surely, like it just like I kept buying the props, I kept filming the content, I kept eating the props. And by September, when everything finally came to a close, like those habits had just perpetuated even worse, was living in a temporary spot. And so then it was like, it wasn't just having like Oreos and just having those things. It was grabbing a couple of beers. It was, and I think that's an important factor, right? Is I think that as we build better relationships with food and maybe we're more aware of eating maintenance calories, I think as aware people, you need to remember is like, if you're eating at maintenance calories, is picking up or having a couple of beers one night, having a cookie with your morning coffee, having an extra bagel with breakfast or something, that culminates, it adds up over time. And while you may not be having a poor relationship with food, you may not be binging or overindulging to a great degree, as those adds up, and all of a sudden you can pack on 5 pounds over the course of a year. And then you stack on top of that. If you binge on top of that, now you're really in trouble.
It adds up so fast. And this is where I think the whole calories in, calories out deniers are just sitting there with their heads in the sand. And it's just like, guys, like, this stuff is not, we're not saying this because we're trying to ruin your life or make life so unlivable and unenjoyable for you. It's just, I want you to just be aware of the decisions that you're making and the consequences that they have. That's it. Whether or not you have an emotional relationship to those decisions, that's really where the wins are. Like, there's no, if you can eat an entire sleeve of Oreos, understand that you're going to wake up tomorrow and feel like shit, and don't weigh yourself for 2 or 3 days because you're not going to like the number. If that's how you approach it, great. Who gives a fuck? As long as you're of sound mind and you know that that's how it's going to happen, I don't have a problem with that.
Yep.
My issue is that when people have those types of behaviors, but then it's the process that's the problem, or calorie counting doesn't work. That's where I have an issue with it, because at that point you're literally just denying very, very simple laws and rules that are just true.
You're allowing emotions to dictate reality, and it's not fucking reality. Like, it's not,
and it's unproductive.
I don't care how you feel. And now here's like a reality to people and I've seen you talk about this a lot, is like the more muscle tissue you have, the longer periods of time you spend in maintenance and with healthy food habits, in the end, discipline will equal freedom. And like, I'm a spitting image of that this year. Like, I let things get out of control. I didn't even weigh myself because I didn't want to see how heavy I had gotten. I'm knowing my body. I was between 247 and 253 pounds, give or take.
Are you still sensitive to that number? Will the scale still freak you out to some extent, or provoke some type of a thought?
So right now where I'm at, I moved my calories to maintenance, and I'm planning on competing in 2025. So in the next 3 months, I will be going into an actual intentional surplus. The thought of that is terrifying. I completed 75 hard this year. I've built a healthier relationship with using multiple metrics to track progress. So watching my body composition. So for example, right now, I 2 weeks after Real Coaches Summit, I had been plateaued for like 5 weeks. I increased food and my body had a big whoosh. It dropped. Like, I woke up the Friday before my client's show, absolutely just peeled 224.5 pounds. Like, I dropped 8 pounds in 1 week. And so I woke up like shredded. And now, as I've shifted into maintenance, I've given myself a little bit more freedom with food. I'm averaging 232. And honestly, I'm fine. Like, I look in the mirror and I'm like, my waist is very small, very petite. Like, I'm well muscled. I'm not as lean, tight, and otherwise. And yeah, I'm fine right now. I mean, I think when I start tipping the scale again at like 240, I will need to definitely rely on other progress. Like, hey, how's my my shirt's getting tighter. Oh, my waist is staying the same size. Like, I'm okay. The scale will definitely still be challenging, because the goal in my entire life has never been to see that scale go up, ever.
Yeah.
Intentionally.
Why compete? Yeah. Why compete? What's your reasons for it?
Yeah, that was going to be another question.
So my coach, I spent 2.5 years with him before I had to step away because of financial reasons last year. And he brought up something to me, was like, Garrett, like, do you understand like your values? Like what truly makes you happy? What drives you? What gets you out of bed in the morning? And, you know, Ram, you wanted to talk about identity. Something that I've realized is I shifted my identity a lot around food, right? I think there's levels to how you change your identity around anything. I changed my identity around the fact that over the course of the last 15 years, I work out 3 to 5 days per week and I don't miss. That is a part of my identity. But one piece of my identity that I never really realized was in high school, I dreamt of meeting my college sweetheart at college, having a great relationship, getting married, buying a house, and having kids before 30. And I'm a big, my therapist recently yelled at me. He's like, Garrett, you have a really big heart and you are absolutely terrible. And I've tried to date women outside of the fitness industry and make it work with women who have zero interest in being like healthy in that way. And for me, that doesn't work. And so I think when I started to kind of full circle it all the way back, like when I started 75 Hard this year, and there has been numerous people outside of just my accountants tell me how much higher, like I'm like, if you're talking like energy and frequency, like I'm just vibrating higher, I'm happier, I'm healthier. I thrive in that discipline. Like it genuinely just makes me happy. And it's something that I'm just like, I want to push the limits of what's possible. That's why.
Is there any fear at all? Like, you know, obviously with bodybuilding, there's always the risk of body dysmorphia or enhancing body dysmorphia or tarnishing your relationship with food post show. Is there any fear of that, or are you just going to hit that road when you get there?
Being 15 years into this and having dieted like very close to stage lean for a photo shoot, nah.
Yeah.
Like
you have the proof of concept that you're not going to rebound poorly.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can't even guarantee that, but I think like mentally, like I can handle it. Like I can accept like, hey, that's not, because even now, like I was DEXA scanned the week of Orlando, and I DEXA scanned at 14% at like 232 pounds, which means the following 5 days when I dropped to 224, I probably hit just sub 10%. Yeah. And like, it was dope to see. And I like looking at those pictures, but I understand the reality of like, it's going to take me probably another maintenance surplus dieting phase to hit 10% and be sustainable body fat. Like I've spent enough years at this to realize that it is going to take another year and a half to get to the point where I can get to 10% and make it a sustainable body fat percentage to comfortably live at and have a life.
How old are you now?
I'll be 34 in 8 weeks.
And I think it's what's valuable here, folks, that are listening is the arc of the different weight fluctuations he's had throughout his entire life. Like I have every day on Instagram, I'm fielding questions about weight fluctuation, or I gained, 1.4 pounds or this or that. You know, this is a guy who's been losing and gaining 10s of 15s, 20 pounds here or there, but nothing has actually taken him away from the underlying process of, I still am going to monitor my nutrition. I'm still going to show up to the gym 3 to 5 times a week. I'm still going to move around outside of the gym. I'm still going to get my water. I'm still going to get my sleep. Like, even though he's fluctuating in weight, which for him is really psychologically scary, given how heavy he was at one point, guys, he hasn't stopped doing any of this shit. Now, it may not deliver the same result or the expected result that he's hoping for every single time he leans into it. He doesn't just stop because it's, oh my God, I gained 3 pounds. What's the point? Mm-hmm. Because if he did that, 394 would turn into 450, would turn into a heart problem, would put him into a hospital bed for the rest of his life. So I think for all of you guys that are listening to this story and you're sitting there and wondering, well, how is he able to do all this stuff? It's because he's set a standard for himself that he's not willing to waver on, but he's also able to adapt and adjust to his life, knowing that stressors are going to be there. Yeah, he's gone through a horrible relationship. He has plenty of trauma from his life, but he doesn't let that interfere for too long of a time. For a lot of us, we're all going to get hit at some point. Like, there's nobody in this room or anybody listening that hasn't had bullshit happen to them at some point.
Most people have not done it long enough to establish the routine, and they're quitting too early. I mean, that's what all of us who have been doing it for a period of time. I could go like you said, 6 months and however long.
Oh, you stopped giving a fuck.
I'm missing at least a quarter of the year training.
Yeah,
every year.
Oh, easily.
I mean, last year I took probably over a month. I mean, I haven't really lifted consistently in over 2 months, but it is something that is ingrained in me in terms of, hey, life is crazy right now. I'm working 14 hours. It's just out of control right now. I'm not going to go. It's how it is. But it's not like I quit. I'm still eating well.
Yeah.
I actually lost weight over the last few weeks or so. But it's just people haven't been doing it long enough.
That's it.
To even give it a chance. They're quitting way too. We're never going to have somebody on here who's like, I've been training for 9 months and it's just who I am. Nobody. Nobody. So like you have not put in the time that other people have. So as soon as you start thinking, I can't do this, or this isn't me, or I keep quitting. If you keep quitting, that means you keep starting. You just have to play this game longer than you think you do to get to the place where a little bit of backsliding doesn't mess you up.
Yeah, I mean, because to put that into perspective, from May, June, so December of 2022, I'm 220 pounds and 12 to 14% body fat. Fast forward 6 months, I begin chucking it in the fuck it bucket and eating like an asshole. But when it comes to my training, I don't miss, period. It does not matter what's happening. Right now, you just said it. I'm working 12 to 14 hours a day, 6 days a week right now. I still don't miss. I still make the time no matter what. Like it just, that is ingrained. It is ingrained in me. It's what keeps me sane. Like
I think I appreciate the insanity a little bit every now and then. It's like I got to get back into it because I'm like, I feel it.
But you also imbibe with recreational drugs, and that's what keeps you sane.
Not the stuff that you think. I'm all natural, baby. All natural.
No, I think
all
mushrooms
natural.
are absolutely fine. You're not a piece of shit like I am.
Correct. I did have a question. Oh, go ahead.
I think that point is just so fucking strong, and I wish more people understood. You just don't have the reps under your belt. Like if you've been consistent for a year, great. Be consistent for another year.
Still brand new.
Because what's the alternative? Are you just going to stop eating healthy? Like you're going to have to eat food for the rest of your life, and you're going to have to probably move your body for the rest of your life. So what's the alternative? Like maybe the effort that you're putting in isn't producing this outcome that you're hoping for. But what's the alternative? What's the backslide going to look like if you just stop?
Yeah. Call me like when you talk year, call me in a decade.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I had a question for you because as you're going through, the things you referenced your coach asking you about your values, and you said going to the gym and not missing is my identity. What happens if, or we'll say when, to make it more dramatic, when that's taken away from you? You're in an accident, you're paralyzed, you become sick in a way. And that's something that I think about when I'm talking with students as a teacher, when I talk to clients, and about identity. That can be taken away. What then?
Find a way to get outside and move. I think that I think that identity has progressed through the years. Because I will say this, my relationship with training and like its necessity, like I don't, if my training split requires 5 days a week, but I only hit 3 days, I don't have a panic attack and freak out. Like, I coach women only, and I know women that are like psychopaths. Like, if they miss a training session, their entire life is like
waka, trigger warning.
Their entire life is collapsing around them.
Yep.
If you accidentally add a tablespoon of fat to their meal, they'll go off.
Is that your tagline? Like when you're doing ads, if you're a chick and you're a fucking psycho, hire me. That's literally exclusively who I work with.
Yeah.
That'd be it. What's your niche? I never say the word right. Niche. What's your niche? Middle-aged psychopathic females only. That's all.
I mean,
I hear what you're saying.
It's funny that you say that. I mean, for the most part right now, I coach coaches, specifically female coaches and female athletes for the most part. Do I deal with Gen Pop still? Yes. But for the most part, I deal with like high performers, female coaches, and female athletes. Is the primary people that I work with now.
And that's
the psychopath part.
And that's a demographic that needs help because their standards for themselves are very high, but sometimes their standards for themselves are very rigid.
Their standards for themselves are very high. Their standards for themselves are very rigid, oftentimes on the wrong things. I consulted with a woman this week who used to be a cardio bunny and adopted weight training 18 months ago. But she's now training 5 to 6 days a week, does a 7th day at a local Orange Theory class. And she's still doing 45 minutes to an hour of cardio a day.
I'll refer those people to you because I don't want them.
Yeah.
Because that's it. To me, there's so much of an identity issue there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
That's a coping mechanism at that point.
Yeah.
At that point, you are numbing so many different problems and feelings in your life with exercise.
You're avoiding them.
Place that you have any semblance of power. And I think that's orthorexia. That's the definition of orthorexia. I do not know how to deal with my problems outside of this. I know I don't want to use food as a mechanism. Drugs are probably not good for me either. So I'm just going to over-exercise all my problems away. And we know that hating yourself into a certain place is not going to work.
Yeah. But I'm also candid enough. My girl that I just put on show, we won first in Masters, third in Open. And I put her on stage at 105 pounds eating 1,800 calories.
Holy shit. That's awesome. That's great. So stage lean at 1,800 that means that her maintenance is probably 26, 27.
No.
That's great.
Yeah. And, I mean, we there was points, we got down to 1,500. But her cardio never went over 150 minutes a week.
I thought you were just going to casually say a day. And I'm like, people listening, do the math real quick on that. You said a week. So I'm like, all right. We never went over 150 minutes a day of cardio. Like, that's a lot of time. Thank God you said week.
Five bouts of 30-minute sessions per week is not a lot of
time. Correct.
Yeah.
A week, very different. In my head, I'm like waiting for you to say day. And I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Her last coach had her upwards of like 270 minutes a week.
That's probably a lot of coaches are putting them in an hour, probably an hour a day for a lot of coaches.
That's because they don't understand how to get somebody's musculature high enough to warrant higher maintenance calories to be able to live at that state. So they just diet them down and they have to add so much cardio to increase energy expenditure towards those end rates. It's just, but how many people are doing that to themselves naturally, unknowingly, and then wondering why it is that every time I have a meal out or I have a week of not caring about my nutrition, I put on 6 pounds. It's because your body's not tolerant of calories anymore because you have no muscle.
Yeah.
You have no place to put those extra calories because you're not doing anything of note. And this isn't a metabolism problem. This is just an under muscle problem. You're just you look like a wet candle. That's what happens.
That's a great, I have pictures and this is another, like, people document your journey and don't delete shit. I have pictures in my phone to this day from 10 years ago of me weighing exactly what I weighed this morning. And it is a completely different human. I look like a skinny fat chode 10 years ago compared to what I look like today at the exact same weight.
I posted years ago just the quote, because, you know, me and Ron, we just do our little quotes. That's our thing. That's where we bonded. I put something like, I should have taken before pictures. Like that was all the post was. And how many clients, because I never require them, but I encourage everybody to. And I would always tell you, there's so many people that say I should have taken before pictures because they spend so many years avoiding pictures. So they don't even have casual pictures that they can pull up. So yeah, I think it's great. I agree with you.
Because at some point, like if I never step on a scale again, I wouldn't give a fuck. I don't need the scale anymore at all. I have a mirror, I have my clothes, and I have my ability inside the gym. Yeah,
that just shows, because as Garrett's talking, he's saying dates and weights, and I'm like, I have no idea.
Yeah, but that's like, not uncommon. That's not uncommon.
But what I'm saying is, correct. But what I'm saying is that is somebody who has been dealing with the scale for a long time. And it's like, this is something from a young age, and knowing how much you weighed your freshman year, knowing how much you weighed your senior year, knowing how much you weighed a year after that. It just shows that coming from that background of being just so aware of the scale, and then to be able to graduate to a place where it doesn't bother you as much every number or 10-pound fluctuation, you know, you have the ability and the skills and the mental wherewithal to be able to bounce back and experiment with your body and different things. But just the fact that you remember all those dates and weights, I'm like, this is like a lifelong impact dealing with what you dealt with at a young age.
Because of 75 Hard this year, every single morning now, my morning routine, I wake up, I make my bed, I walk into my bathroom, I take a progress picture, I step on the scale, no matter what I ate, drank, or otherwise the day before, every single day.
You shit first, right? You use the bathroom first, right? What kind of psycho does all that without pooping or peeing first? I mean, this is...
you gotta poop. You
gotta poop and pee first.
Most of the time, I have to have my morning coffee and my morning ruck.
Dude, and then, in 10 years, he'll be running to the pisser like me and you.
Yeah, you still have a good prostate. You be on TRT long enough, you're gonna start.
I take daily tadalafil, man. My prostate's good.
There you go. How many milligrams of tadalafil you take a day?
7.5 milligrams a day.
Nice. So you're always ready to rock and roll.
Oh yeah. I run around like a 19-year-old.
Yeah, I preload for the weekend. I do 10, 20, and then 30 the night of.
I would be scared to what would happen if I took 30 milligrams.
That's just enough to wake it up for me.
How much have I taken? I think for some weekend getaways, I've taken like, what would it be? 12.5 milligrams plus my daily dose. So what is that, like 20 or something?
It's just about 20, yeah. I mean, that's what a full dose of Cialis should be, but unfortunately for me, I'm not. I'm unresponsive.
It's okay if he gets hard with double the prescribed dosage.
Oh yeah, if I'm at 40 Cialis and I can see past my foreskin, I'm real happy.
Past my foreskin.
Rom, how old are you, bro?
I'm 40.
He's hormonally dysfunctional. It's a long story.
This body's got hard miles on it. A lot of hard. You put yourself in the drive-through. I was doing other things that destroyed my physiology.
You never knew Mick Jagger could look so good at 40. 2024. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I was just watching something. I forget which band it was. It was either Aerosmith or Rolling Stones. I think it was Aerosmith, whatever. They brought
Steven Tyler's. Oh, my God.
Yeah, it was one of those bands. They brought a doctor on to make sure that they were like not doing drugs because they were like doing so many drugs. And by the end of the tour, the doctor was addicted to cocaine. I just saw this somewhere. I was awesome. Dying. I forget what band it was. But
talk about being influential.
They were the original influencers, apparently.
That would be that'd be like putting someone in Westside Barbell and saying that they didn't do gear.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, I think Jordan Syatt was the only person in Westside Barbell that didn't do steroids.
My friend Mike worked out there. He's not on steroids.
I'm sure he did steroids.
No, he's weird.
So Garrett, as we start to wrap up here, when you're talking to especially women about their relationship with food and having struggled for as many years as you have and still having to fight that battle, what are some words of encouragement you can give especially our women listeners about that specific topic? Because I think that basically hinges all of your success and your results hinge on your relationship with food.
So this has recently been brought to the forefront of my mind. It's given me more of a different perspective to speak on it. I was blessed I've been blessed in my career is a good amount of my clients, I would say 30% of my clientele I've worked with for 2+ years.
Oh, wow.
Or longer. And here's what I will say. For majority of women, because of what you've been taught your whole life is smaller, less food, more activity. If you have 15 to 25 pounds to lose, you do not need another fucking diet. You need to figure out what your maintenance calories is, and you need to train hard for 2 years. And then call me at that point, and then you have earned the right to diet. Because at that point, you have earned the right to have enough muscle tissue on your body to not only have a successful diet, but to actually truly have body composition change that you desire. And I promise you, you are not going to get bulky. That is something that I had to learn the hard way as a coach over the course of I had the honor of coaching someone for 6 years. And I will tell you that at 5'7" and 172 pounds, at our final cut together was her best look ever. And it was not because we dieted to that point. That diet was 12 weeks in length. But that physique was built spending years at maintenance and fighting her tooth and nail to be like, nope, no diet. Nope, no diet. Nope, no diet. You don't know. And it's just not, you don't need another diet. It goes back to some of the conversations that have happened today is you need to be at maintenance and you need to build a healthier relationship with food. And that is going to take years.
And I'm not afraid to say that stuff either. And I think that's what more people need to see. Because once they can let go of the timeline, results are inevitable.
And put away the fucking 15-pound dumbbells for the love of fuck. You are if you can curl it, it is not heavy enough to grow your fucking glutes.
No. That's for damn sure, especially since your kid was probably 35 pounds or more. But, dude, I appreciate it, man. I think more people – I like being able to get people on that have these types of stories because it makes it very relatable. Because a lot of times people will look at fitness people as if we're infallible. Oh, it's easy for you. You got it all figured out. That's no, it's not. And here's proof why it's not easy for us because we have somebody here – and we have multiple examples of people who've had to fight, claw, and tooth and nail their way through this process, just like you do.
Wednesday night of this week. So today is Friday. Wednesday night of this week, I was maintenance calories minus additional carbs for workout training. So it was an off day. It was 3,200 calories. I hit my 32 or no, I think I had missed. I was at 2,800 calories for the day. And I was like, you know what? I'm getting set up with my coach next week. And then I'm basically prepping to prep and I need to be better. I was like, fuck it. I want dessert. I went for a walk to see if I could visit a friend of mine who works at a bar that's literally a couple blocks away. I went for a walk. She wasn't there. Cool. I went and grabbed Cinnamon Toast Crunch cheesecake, to die for. And I had 2 old fashions. I'm a human.
Yeah.
On a Wednesday.
And people need more of that, man. That's why I'm transparent about all that shit on Instagram. People.
And I didn't.
Maybe a little too much, Aram, with what you did the other day. Anyway, moving on. GQ.
What? I didn't wake up. I'm not fat. I didn't magically gain 10 pounds.
You're not. You're the sum total of the average decision you make, not the one decision you make. So
exactly.
Dude, your voice of reason needs to be heard more louder and more often. So I hope to start seeing the GQ podcast come out.
Yeah. So that last note, Intentional Health for Women podcast launches next month.
We'll be looking forward to that one. That's our demographic, man. That's the people that are so underserved. I don't give a shit about guys. We're easy. Give us a Cialis and a pat on the back and some dumbbells. We'll be good to go.
Cialis, a pat on the back. That is a t-shirt. Cialis and pat on the back and dumbbells.
Okay. Cialis, TRT, and a pat on the back.
That's yes.
And dumbbells.
Yep. Yeah. Or I'll take machines, but yeah, dumbbells work too.
Yeah.
Well, give him our final question, Jimmy.
As always, like to ask all of our guests one final question so we can compare who you are as an actual human. Bye.